you've done well with what you've got. So I'll put this motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against?
Aye.
Thank you. That's carried. Brilliant. Okay, number 15. Now, this is just a bit of housekeeping, I'm led to believe. I'll move it, number 15. Councillor Donovan will second it. Is there any discussion or debate, or would anyone like to have any questions? Councillor Coker.
I don't remember what my question exactly was, but it was it was just in relation to because this is obviously in relation to council, but I was wondering in terms of like our council controlled organisations, does this apply to that, or anything like that? Like, does it go any wider than that? Or say someone who worked for one of our companies had concerns about council, would they be protected? That kind of thing.
I'd say in general, anybody with concerns about council's operations, we're going to engage with them in good faith around what their concerns might be. This is really focused on council and council's operations specifically.
Mm-hmm. So they will have their own policies in place. If we get an issue, we do hand it over, but we don't deal with it. We would hand it. If somebody came into us about one of our companies, we'd go back to them, giving them the way that they could make it to a company.
Yeah, no, I guess it's a question about if you say you work for a particular council company, and I know this isn't really relevant completely like you just said, but if someone was to work for one of our companies and had concern about maybe another company, council, or the overarching, like, I would like to know more about that, I guess is my point. Yeah.
Sorry, I think I just missed the end of that.
We could get CCHL to talk about that when they come in. We'll get CCHL to talk about that when they come in.
Sure, thanks.
Okay. B, do you want to?
Oh, no, I was just going to add that each organisation has its own protected disclosures, and it is controlled by legislation, and there's a particular procedure. We would support anybody who came in the appropriate way, but it would be in the first instance back to the relevant organisation.
Okay. Righto, so we've got a mover and seconder. Is there any debate anyone wants to hear? No, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Thank you. That's carried. Okay, number 16, Draft Canterbury Climate Partnership Plan 2024. Hey, Tony? Because I'm on the mayoral forum, I'm more than happy to. Am I not coming here? No, I'm not. I'll move it. And Councillor, someone is going to second it. Okay, Councillor Tim will second it. Fire away, mate.
Sure, I've just got a very short introduction and then I'll welcome your questions after that, so thank you. So the purpose of this report is to seek your endorsement of the Canterbury Draft Canterbury Climate Partnership Plan ahead of the mayoral forum approval and implementation of the actions over the next few years. On September 23, this council endorsed the high-level framework guiding this plan, its visions, principles and objectives. The plan's vision, of course, is to a thriving, climate-resilient, low-emission Canterbury. Funding to support the implementation of this plan was approved in the long-term plan, and to date, all partner councils have offered funding that was requested of them as well. So we have a fully supported plan, which is great. The Canterbury Mayoral Forum has identified climate change as a key priority for the region. The Mayoral Forum then established a staff working group and councillor reference group to develop a joint climate action plan for the region. Kerry Graydon, myself and Councillor Seo Timmerton represented our council on the working groups and reference groups. This plan has been shaped over many months by staff and councillors representing every council in the region. It has been informed by the 2022 Regional Climate Risk Assessment. Some of you may remember that document. by public feedback received through the Let's Pick a Path consultation that Environment Canterbury ran throughout the region, gathering views from the public, and also informed by Naitau, who fed in towards the end, gave us some feedback on the document, and it's trying to weave in more treaty-based approaches in the actions. So the plan contains 10 actions and 19 sub-actions that will benefit Christchurch. And I've just got some examples of those projects, if that's okay. Mm-hmm. So Action 1 will provide a deeper understanding of the climate risks for human, economic and natural environment domains. So just a deeper understanding of those risks. Our current approach really looked at the physical changes of climate change rather than the human economic implications. It'll create an emissions reduction pathway for the region, which will help us in our district emission reduction planning. It will also help us prioritise investments in nature. Action 4 is looking at creating a blue-green network, and part of that is a $14 million bid to MB to develop some new tools to help adopt nature-based solutions to climate resilience. Action 5 is about informing our community about the climate-related risks, but also encouraging them to take action on climate change through the It's Time Canterbury communications approach. And Action 8 will explore funding options for local climate action and have joint advocacy to government on resourcing needs of local councils. So I welcome your questions.
Okay. Councillor Johansson.
Thank you. I read through the actions and I look at this as being like Environment Canterbury's work, and I'm kind of questioning why we're being asked to fund regional initiatives when, you know, we can't get as we've hardly had a single cent from the regional partners to things like regional facilities, for example. So I'm just trying to understand like the value of this investment into funding things that are already underway, responsibility of others, when we've got our own programs that we're struggling to fund around things like, if you look at some of the actions like the ecology goals, for example, and we've just heard this morning another example of where we don't have, you know, district plan changes to protect the environment. So yeah, I'm just trying to understand like the benefit of us putting this funding in to things that are other people's responsibility when we've got our own funding challenges and things that we could do that would have a more direct impact to meeting the actions.
So just a reminder that the funding has been approved in a long-term plan to support this partnership plan. So that's you've made a decision around approving that funding for that. In terms of the benefits, obviously we are part of Canterbury and we're connected to the economy and you know many of the climate change impacts flow across the region. So if we're adopting catchment-based approaches to managing, for example, flood risks, then that's a handy thing to do in terms of regional scale activity. Likewise, biodiversity. I mean, you are right. Some of the components of this work, you could say, Environment Canterbury should be doing themselves, and they have agreed to project manage all this work and are driving internal. They've got their own climate change action plan as well for the region as well. So that's in complement to this. So when this plan was being developed, all of the councils didn't want to see it duplicating councils' efforts. They wanted to see it complement those efforts. And so many of the actions are sort of fundamental in nature. They're sort of data gathering and analysis and support of local council actions. So in terms of the benefits of that for us, I mean, we are lucky we're a large council in the region and we have you know, reasonable resources, but we have committed only modest resources to support this in terms of staff resources. So we're not looking to take away from our own climate change work. We're just looking to support the actions where we can and get you know, the benefits that can be delivered to our community through that means.
So can I just understand what's the total cost of the project or the implementation?
Yep.
How much are we contributing compared to what the others are contributing?
So the Mural Forum has a basis, I think it's population based. So the total project costs over the next 4 years is $1.47 million. We are contributing $301,000 over the next 3 years.
Right. And is there an actual, like, I appreciate we've got it in the LTP through our activity plan budget, but is there an actual specific, some specific things that we can see where our funding's going? Like, what are we actually paying for? Because when I look at, like, you know, a number of the actions, again, like, it's either stuff that we're already doing, or it's stuff that other councils are doing or ECAN's doing. So I'm just trying to understand specifically if we know what specific projects we're being asked to contribute funding towards. And like, is there a budget breakdown that we can get circulated?
Sure, I understand. So if you look at at the end of the document, end of the plan, there are some tables set out there. And so they do show the projects that are proposed and then indicative costs for their overall program of work. So that's a place to look for who's leading the work, what the work entails, and the costs related to those pieces of work. But in terms of your question, really, we've been asked to invest in the whole package. All the councils met through the reference group, and they all agreed that we're all in on all projects. So it wasn't just picking a few specific projects. It was the partnership is being asked to, the partners are being asked to come together and invest in a regional climate action plan, which is what's been in front of you now, and all of the councils agreed to put funding in to support those actions rather than picking specific actions to fund.
Thank you. Right, we've got two questions. Councillor Coker and then Councillor Kewen. You're all done? Debate. Okay. Councillor Kewen.
Mine's possibly a little bit of a follow-on from Yanni's because the money we're spending and stuff. But in the regional climate actions, there's 10 actions there. I'm trying to, and so you can highlight what's the best one. Which ones actually reduce our emissions out of all of those and have an impact on the environment?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Thank you.
So yeah, highlight them because which would you say is the best sell there?
The best sell. So most of the actions do have a resilience component to them. So most of them are about adaptation, but there is one specific to greenhouse gas emissions, which is Action 2.
Yep.
And so Action 2 is going to be crafting an emissions reduction pathway for the region. Of course, we're part of that region. So it'll be looking at the greenhouse gas emissions generated by the region and then seeing what are the key levers we can pull and the pathway that we can develop in partnership with stakeholders to reduce greenhouse gas emissions across the region. So clearly farming is a big part of that, and so to transport and energy. The footprint is in the plan, in the introductory context of the plan. You can see the regional footprint. So that is a particular focus on greenhouse gas emission reduction, and it's a significant project. Another significant project is Project 1, which relates to having an adaptation and risk tool being put across the whole region. We've been working here locally in Christchurch with a group called Urban Intelligence to develop a risk explorer tool, and we have been understanding the sea level rise and flood risks and the impact of that on our assets and our communities. That tool is now going to be taken across the whole of the region. So that's of interest to us because we are connected to the communities in the region, and if we're all using similar tools and approaches, it'll actually help being more consistent with our risk management approaches across the region. So that's another significant piece of work. And then the third piece that's quite significant is the nature-based solutions, that is Action 4. And that is, at the heart of that, it's to say, where does nature occur across the region, and how can nature best protect people and property if we are reinforcing it from a resilience point of view. So an example of that might be a sand dune or a wetland or riparian planting along riverways or planting on hillsides. So the idea is to say, what is the key opportunities throughout the entire region, including Christchurch District, to reinforce nature, to help, of course, biodiversity itself, but also to protect people and property from climate risks.
Right. So, but I would have thought all of that one especially is already being done when you look at what our parks and rivers team are already doing. I would have thought that's the case.
So definitely we've got and obviously our parks team are very active in that area, and we've been, of course, supporting, the Avon River is an example of that, the Otaka Avon River project. But we've been putting in riparian planting in the gullies around Banks Peninsula as well. Yep. So you are right, there's things we are doing. This, though, is a New Zealand first because we have got some very smart tools being created alongside this to better inform our decision making so we can pinpoint the best places to do these interventions.
Right.
Thank you. Right, we'll go into debate. Righto then.
Thank you. I'm just probably picking up.
Sorry, no, that's a question. Sorry.
Question.
Yep.
Yep. Councillor Keown's questions around the nature-based solutions bit of work. So the funding that we are putting in, so this is develop the program of work, but then in terms of the implementation of that within council, for instance, what does that process look like? Does a report come to council? Because if we are looking at implementing nature-based solutions outside of an area that we might actually have funding to do that work, how will we do that work?
Yes, you're right. So again, these are enabling sort of systems. They're not requiring councils to act in any particular way. So they're going to provide guidance for local government and guidance for landowners about how to restore nature in a way which gives us the best dividends from a resilience point of view. So it is, as you rightly pointed out, up to individual councils throughout the region to invest in the solutions that are being proposed.
And just a quick follow-up, in terms of the Risk Explorer tool, which sounds fantastic, is there some application of the use of technology to look at mapping those areas in terms of, is that part of what it will be doing? Mapping areas of, so if we're looking at areas where we can get the best bang for buck in terms of investment for nature-based responses to climate change and biodiversity, will we be looking at mapping out those areas? And
That's
getting that
correct,
information?
yes. It's a
great.
mapping exercise.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, good as gold. Right, I'm going to throw it out to debate, and Councillor Coker is first off the blocks.
Look, thanks very much for the report. Look, I'll always support working with other councils, especially on issues that concern us all, and particularly when we're all aligned and desire the same outcomes. I think we should always be looking to partner with our neighbouring councils, as we don't exist in a vacuum, and climate change is happening to all of us. In the report, it says that one of the aims, the high-level aims, is to strengthen collaborations and build greater capacity throughout the region. We should be supporting that. And it also talks about not duplicating local action and complementing, not duplicating the efforts of other council established groups, etc. So I can't see how there'll be any issue with supporting this. I think it's fantastic that we've got ECAN sort of leading this, and we can use their resources to work for the future for everyone. So thanks.
Okay, I'll just throw my 5 bobs. Aaron?
But I think half the rooms.
Okay, who would like the next? Councillor Templeton.
Kia ora. Like Councillor Coker, I'm completely in favour of councils working together. It's really important that we have a regional approach. The Canterbury economy is entirely reliant on having a stable climate and in adapting to change over time and working together to do that. Political boundaries are just that. They're political, and the climate doesn't care where they are. So I think it's important that we work together both on adaptation and on mitigation. My earlier reluctance is in the ability for this plan to actually make meaningful change. I think that working together, developing tools, all of those kind of things are good. But I think the measure of success for this plan shouldn't be, did we write a plan? It should be, did we reduce emissions? Did we make our communities more resilient? And I think that's the key concern I have going forward. I know that the Mayoral Forum members, the Mayors of Canterbury are the same members of the Regional Land Transport Committee, which also signed off on a plan that had really good intentions around climate change, around reduction of emissions, but the actual work program that was signed off there increased emissions. And so the follow-through is really important on this. Will the plan actually reduce emissions? And I think getting regular reporting on the adaptation work on the ground and the emissions reduction is more important than did we write a plan. Thanks.
Okie dokie. Anyone else have their Councillor Johansson?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think at some stage we just need to recognise that we have enormous challenges, and especially in terms of resourcing, of actually doing things. And I think the frustration is that we seem to be in this continuous cycle of coming up with plans while losing sight of the key thing is, what are we doing that reduces emissions? And, you know, we talk about nature-based solutions, and if you read through this document, there's a lot of wonderful things in it. Develop a blue-green network plan for Canterbury. Well, the reality is that ECAN does a regional policy statement, and they do a regional plan, and we've got a Greater Christchurch spatial plan, and we've got an urban development strategy. We've got a number of things that should be doing this work already. And in fact, if you look down to the actions, what you can see out of just about, there's only one thing that we have direct lead on, and it said that we will, the cost to us is staff time. So effectively, we're giving money to other organisations who refuse to contribute to kaha, the single biggest cost, right? They've said, no, wait till it's built, and then we'll have the conversation about operational costs, but we won't contribute to it. We've got regional facilities like Arana Park not getting contributions from some of these others. And I just feel that, like, if we look at what's happening on the ground in some of our communities, actually what we need, and we heard this morning, we heard from a local community board, you've got industrial development that's having an adverse impact on our ecology, on our urban waterways, and on local residents, that we don't have the resources to do the planning required to actually improve the situation. We heard from them that we don't have tsunami evacuation plans in place. And yet, if you read this, it says we're going to give money to others to do work to help them, and we don't seem to have the own resource for it to help ourselves, to do the things that people in our community are asking for. So there's a lot of really good stuff in here. I just can't see why we should be, as a city, funding others to do work that benefits them, that they should have responsibility for, recognising that we have a number of things that we need to do as a city that we are not currently doing, that is leading to our urban waterways being degraded, is leading to a loss of our valuable ecology because we don't have the resources, and yet we've got resources to fund others to do similar things in their areas. So appreciate the work that's gone into this. I do think at some stage we need to have a conversation around all these different bureaucratic structures we have in Canterbury and Greater Christchurch and decision making, because it does seem to me that we're simply funding a lot of things going round in circles. And I know we've got a housing report back. Where's the money that's been put towards the social housing action plan that has been repeatedly delayed? And that's another one that, I think we should be getting a clear contribution from our partners. So I won't support this today. I am against us putting in the funding to this. We've got other priorities that would make a much better impact.
Okay, so we have no more years of debate?
That's quite bold of you, Yanni. My issue with things like this is that so much work goes into it, and there's some great bits in the plan, but I would prefer that $300,000 a year was replanting the gullies on Banks Peninsula. The sooner that grows back, the better, and working around some more of our waterways. I live in the Paradise, which is the northwest of Christchurch, so things are pretty close to perfection there. I'm just waiting to see a dude walking around only wearing a fig leaf. It's that good. But there's other parts of the city that need help and some work, and so there seems to be this pushback, and a number of you here wouldn't have heard it, but from members of the public that think that anything labelled climate change is just going to cost money and not deliver much. And like when you have the big meetings, where the COP meetings where 100,000 people turn up in their jets and stuff like that and talk about reducing the world's emissions, whereas there's real people on the ground here that can do stuff for the environment. So the more I think we frame stuff around the environmental outcomes, and if there was in here measures to see the reductions, and I know things do start with a plan and things like that, and some of the greatest environmental achievements we have in this city did start with plans. They were once a map of a paddock, which are now stunning waterways and plantings, and so I do get that, but I am still worried that you've only got to say the words climate change and people get out their checkbook because they think they're saving the planet, and are they? I don't know if they are sometimes, and so I'm just speaking up for people that would rather see more impact on actual environmental outcomes, because we're not pulling much plastic out the ocean as a council. and we're not clearing the air enough. That's all.
I'll say the last bit. We've got Greater Christchurch Partnership, which works well. It advocated for the money from the government for motorways in and out of town, spatial plan, all sorts of things, good things that we're doing. The other thing that I'm on is Canterbury Mural Forum. Now, we are the biggest group in the Mural Forum, and we need to lend our weight to this sort of thing because they are our neighbours as well, don't forget. Now, one thing I always hear, and it always goes back to it at Canterbury Mural Forum meetings, is let's get stop banks built bigger to stop rivers flowing out all over the place like it does when it rains like buggery and the water comes over State Highway 1.